so that we're ready to go when it is time. I'll let you know when I'm ready so you can start exactly at 5:30. Okay. And I am all good to go whenever the clock turns over.
All right. Well, the clock on my computer has gone to 5:30. So seeing as we have everyone here, I will now call to order the January 20th, 2022 meeting of the Salem Historic Landmarks Commission. Will the recorder please take roll call?
Oh, we're doing the swearing in first, actually.
Oh, swearing in
roll
is
call.
first.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I had it the opposite. Or I wasn't actually. I didn't look at it. Sorry. First, may we have 2 new commissioners to swear in tonight.
That's right. And Mr. Capani is gone, so I will be taking care of that. And so we'll do them individually. And I guess we'll start with Commissioner Inman. That's okay. And hopefully you have it in front of you. It's one long run-on sentence, but I'll take a few breaks. So I'll read it and then you repeat after me, okay? I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Juliana Inman, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and of the state of Oregon,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and of the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of a Historic Landmarks Commissioner for Salem during my continuance therein.
and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of a Historic Landmarks Commissioner for Salem during my continuance therein.
Great, congratulations. Welcome to the HLC. Yay. Okay, and Commissioner Holton. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, David Holton, do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and of the state of Oregon,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and the state of Oregon,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and the city charter and ordinances of the city of Salem,
and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of a Historic Landmarks Commissioner for Salem during my continuance therein.
and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully and lawfully perform the duties of a Historic Landmark Commissioner for Salem during my continuance therein.
Congratulations and welcome to the HLC.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Excellent. Thank you and welcome. Now that we have 2 new commissioners to participate in roll call, will the recorder please take roll call?
Commissioner Cunningham,
Here.
Commissioner Kurtman,
Here.
Commissioner Holton,
Here.
Commissioner Inman,
Here.
Commissioner Ponce,
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Fuller is absent, Commissioner Mulvihill is absent, and Commissioner Schwartz is also absent, but we have established quorum.
Thank you, Zach. Now, moving through our agenda, since it's January, we have elections for our positions, for our officers. Can I have a motion for chair?
Hi, this is Andy. I am making a motion to select Carol Cottingham as chairperson for the next year for the HLC.
Thank you, Andy. Do we have
Second,
a second?
Yes.
Thank you. And is there any discussion? Anyone? Otherwise, we will move it to a vote. And I'm looking at two different things here to make sure I said that right. Yeah, so with that, with the motion and the second, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, with that, I think I gavel that. With that, does the election for me to be the chair for next year. And now we need to have a motion for vice chair. May I have a motion? I'll make a motion for Andy Zimmerman to serve as vice chair.
Second,
Juliana seconds. Please raise your hand or chime in if you'd like to discuss. Otherwise, we will move on and move to a vote. So I'll call for a vote to elect Andy Zimmerman to be vice chair for the Landmarks Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right. That passes unanimously. And ends our elections for the year. Thank you, everyone. Again, I apologize. I'm doing this and I have multiple screens I'm trying to look at to stay on track. So now with those two things, we will move to our approval of the minutes. I know that everyone received it in your packet. Did anybody have any comments on that or any things they saw? Otherwise, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Andy. I make a motion to approve the minutes as provided.
I will second that and comment also that I attended the meeting in December, even though I was not a commissioner.
Excellent. Well, we have a motion and a second. Excuse me. Commissioner Zimmerman moves to approve the minutes and Commissioner Inman seconds. Are there any correct and only correction or comment was noting that Commissioner Inman was at the December meeting. Are there any other corrections? All right, if not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And that gets us through the first things on our agenda and move to the more meaty things. So we'll be heading into our public hearings, and I know that Kimberly shared that she's not feeling really well, so we'll be patient with her and her voice while she will be doing her reports.
Carol, just real quick, sorry to interrupt. I just want to
Yes.
have it on the record that we do have a public comment period, but no one signed up, so there is no public comment.
Thank you. Sorry, I was supposed to ask about that.
That's okay. Move on to public hearings.
All right. All right. I will now open the public hearing for historic review case number HIS 2128 for 466 Court Street Northeast. Would the recorder please read the hearing procedure statement into the record?
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 21-28 for property located at 466 Court Street Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 230.040D, Storefronts, and 230.056, Signs in Commercial Historic Districts. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with evidence or statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the hearings officer on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
Thank you, Zach. And before we begin, I'd like to ask the commission if there are any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that the commission would like to declare at this time.
David Holton. I do not have a potential or actual conflict. I have worked with Kaufman Homes. I last worked with them 14 years ago, and I'm currently working with them on a home remodel project here. But again, I have no bias in this case, and I feel I'm open to discussing it and acting accordingly.
Thank you. Anyone else? And I should have said also, since we are on Zoom, of course, if make sure you jump in if for some reason I don't see. I'm trying to watch the gallery view. All right. Kimberly, may we now have the staff presentation?
Good evening. Again, sorry for my voice. I'm Kimberly, the Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Salem. I'd like to enter the staff report, its attachments, and all public testimony into the record. This property is located on Court Street and is a contributing resource in our downtown historic district. Here's a street view of the storefront and awning and the section that we're going to be discussing tonight. A little bit about the history. The Oddfellows Hall was designed in 1900 and was originally the Mother Lodge, Shemeketa Lodge #1 of the Independent Order of Oddfellows in the Pacific Northwest. It also held the Grand Theater. And according to nomination documents, the one-story brick addition that you're going to be looking at this evening with the flat roof was originally built in the fall of 1900. Originally, there was only one entrance on this north facade of the building. In 1922, another concrete addition was added. And in 1936, both additions were rebuilt, at which time 2 entrances were created. And then that's when the transom windows and canopies were added. In 1961, the storefronts were replaced and reconfigured. So a little procedural stuff. If you recall, on December 16th, 2021, the applicant requested a continuance until the January 20th tonight HLC meeting in order to add their request for approval to install new signage. And just for the record, at this time, the applicant also authorized extension of the state mandated 120-day deadline from March 24th, 2022 to May 24th, 2022. When this case was initially scheduled for a public hearing in December, their awning extended over the sidewalk, as you can see on the picture there on the left of your screen, and it overlapped the existing awning attached to Oddfellows, the Annex building. So initially, this platform was not exempt from historic design review before the HLC. However, since that time, the applicant has cut back that awning, so it would no longer impact the Annex building, and has continued to work with Public Works staff to ensure compliance with the City Council adopted guidelines for dining platforms in downtown. So this portion of their request has been removed from your consideration. I believe I'll talk about this at the end to remind you, but you did receive some comments, in particular from Carol Smith, with a petition relating to this portion of the proposal, but it no longer applies because this isn't part of the proposal any longer. So what you are considering, the applicant is proposing to replace the storefront windows on the north facade of the Annex building. Additionally, the applicant is requesting approval to replace transom windows. Currently, the single pane transoms are glazed and stopped in with wood in and out, and they are in poor condition. The current condition of the existing single pane windows in the storefront system is also poor, and the applicant can speak more to this. It's they're not held together and they had some issues with especially the storefront glass breaking due to the condition and also the framework that they're in. Additionally, the owners are very interested in improving energy performance of the building envelope, which is why they are proposing a double paned energy efficient glazing, both within the new storefront systems and the transom window. The second portion of their application is they're requesting approval to install 2 new signs, 8 feet 6 inches by 5 feet in size, which are proposed to be painted onto the stucco face of the building above the transom windows. And they're proposing to light up the signage with fixtures that will be placed on top of the existing awnings and pointing up. Now I'm going to go through the applicable criteria and findings. So the first section we'll be considering is in Salem Revised Code 230.040D storefronts. So first, materials. So metal and glass replacement material that they're proposing is compatible with the existing facade materials, and the materials on the original openings will be substantially retained, but the glass will be replaced. And even though the glass itself is not an in-kind replacement, single pane is being replaced with a double pane, the proposed glass replacement is compatible in this facade. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that SRC 230.0401A and B have been met. And now design, which is 230.040D2. The applicant is proposing to retain the design and the openings for both the storefront and the transom openings. And they are proposing some minor changes by adding a slightly wider dark metal framing to ensure that the glass can be secure within the storefront. Currently, it doesn't have any framing. They can speak to this. They were able to get another bid from another contractor that ensures that frame that will hold in the double pane glass is not as wide as they originally were thinking it had to be. Staff has actually recommending a condition of approval for the transom windows. I'm not going to read that whole condition right now, but it is recommended that the single pane glass within the transoms be preserved after it's removed and retained, because it was added as part of the 1936 remodel, so that it can be available to either the current owner or a future owner should they want to restore that glass to the original appearance. And now I'm going to discuss the criteria relating to signage. So just to be clear, this is not a reconstruction of a historic sign. So the applicable criteria are in 230056B, so relating to permanent non-historic signs. And again, just as with the previous standards, we have criteria relating to materials and then criteria relating to design. So as I mentioned, the applicant is proposing to paint the sign onto the stucco, and that acrylic paint is compatible with the resource. And the proposed design, it doesn't require any hardware or framing. It'll be applied flush to the front facade and no character defining features will be obscured. It is compatible in size and scale with the building. And then, as I mentioned, the lighting, they will not exceed, they'll be pointing up towards the signage, and the light fixtures will not exceed 366 watts between sunset and sunrise. So staff recommends the HLC find that SRC 230056 has been met for this proposal. Comments were received, as I mentioned, from Carol Smith regarding the portion of the proposal that has been withdrawn. Additional comments were received from Michael Livingston, representing the Neighborhood Association, who stated that Can-Do does not oppose the proposal. And comments have been received from city departments, Public Works, Planning, and Building and Safety, who don't have any concerns with the proposal. The Planning Division did indicate that the proposed signage does meet the applicable standards in SRC 900, which is our sign code. So based upon the applicant's submittal and the findings presented this evening, staff recommends the Landmarks Commission approve the proposal with the following condition: that the applicant shall salvage the 1936 transom window glass after removal. I'm not going to read the whole thing. That concludes the staff report, and I will stop sharing so you can see each other.
Thank you, Kimberly. Do any commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Inman.
Yes. Are there any photographs of the condition of the transom windows? I mean, like close-up photographs, just a record of the poor condition.
I think that the applicant can best answer that. They did email a picture from the interior showing the negative condition, and I was able to visit the site, but I think that the applicant can provide more information on that.
Thank you.
When it's time for him.
Soon. Are there other questions for staff?
Kimberly, are the transom windows, are they a single unit or are they multiple individual units?
Nice. That's so funny. So are you asking if they're fixed within each frame, one transom window?
That's correct.
That's my understanding, yes, but I think the applicant can confirm that. Are you concerned about removal?
No. The other thing is in the conditions, it's retaining the glass. Is there any thought of actually retaining the frame?
I didn't specify that in the recommended condition, but you can certainly discuss that with the other commissioners and perhaps with the applicant.
Sure. You know, it's yeah. I'll discuss that with the applicant and just kind of another thing. Should I do that now or should I wait?
I think you'll have an opportunity very soon.
Yeah.
That'll be next. Are there any other questions for staff before we close? All right. Seeing none, I will now call for the applicant's testimony. And reminder to please state your name and address for the record, or your business address if you are representing the applicant. Please note that your testimony is limited to 15 minutes.
Sure. My name is Kurt Renfro. This is Troy Batson. We work with Kaufman Homes over at 5796 State Street. We just moved. Sorry, I'm trying to memorize the the address. Salem, Oregon, 97317.
Thank you. And do you have any presentation or testimony?
I think I could speak to the to Mr. Holton's questions. I think for the upper transom windows, the only way to probably salvage those windows properly is to keep them in their frames directly in the sash and remove them in the sash and store them in the basement. This seems to be the only way that we can keep them intact. Taking them out, deglazing them from the frame may be problematic. We don't know. We don't know the sensitivity of the glass. So our intent is to basically take the entire sash out and store those in the building's basement. For the other question of the photographs, we sent in some photographs for the glass. The glass is kind of a wavy, textured glass. It's opaque in its nature. The glass is probably, I would say probably in 1930s or 40s glass. For that reason, since we wanted both the bottom and the top to be uniform in their nature, we thought that since we have to remove the lower, that the upper should be addressed also. You do see these units up above inside the building proper. And it's, I think having them separated or non-uniform would be probably unpleasing to the eye, but we will keep those intact, and that's our intent.
Thank you. And I will, this is still the applicant's time at the podium if we had a virtual podium. But I also open at this point do any other commissioners have questions for the applicant? This is the opportunity to ask. Commissioner Kerdeman.
I have a question. It sounded like you were saying that the windows were going to be stored in the basement. My question was going to be where were you going to be storing them, and if you had capacity to store them in a safe environment where they won't get moldy or broken.
Yeah.
So if I could speak to that, having been in the building many times and then in the attics as well as the basements, it may turn out better to store them in the attic. The basement is pretty well used at this point. There is adequate storage in the attic space for all of the windows, I believe.
Thank you. And I definitely would recommend leaving them in the frames. Just personal experience trying to remove 1930s glass from frames is
Right.
and very unsuccessful.
To follow up on, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. To follow up on that just a little bit, and my initial question is, these are individual units. My only recommendation based on history is to number those and photograph them and put them in a packet along with the windows, so that if they're reconditioned, they're able to go back in their original location. That's my only recommendation. And An attic is a good place because it's drier than a basement. So, yeah. Thank you.
More than willing to do that.
Yes.
Thank
more
you.
than-
Commissioner, there's questions from Commissioner Inman and Pons. So Commissioner Inman,
Thank you.
you asked. Thank you.
My concern about a photograph of the condition of the transom has been addressed, since you're going to save the transom windows and sashes. So I think that's more than adequate.
Thank you.
And also the presentation, the staff presentation, clarified some questions that I had about sills and heads and on the storefront and that sort of thing. So thank you. That was very thorough.
Thank you. And Commissioner Pons, you've been patient. Thank you. That's your question.
Good presentation, and I'm excited about the project. A question on the lighting, whether you folks modeled a downcast light versus the upcast light that you have proposed. And
So I can speak to that. We actually did not model it. Our thought was if we did a downcast light, that would be a visible fixture that would more affect the current look of the building. And by doing an upcast light, we could kind of hide the light and make it less visibly obtrusive. We would be happy to entertain any recommendations. But that was our intent, was to cause the least visible addition to the facade.
great. The second part of that with the reflectivity of the paint you select, just so that it's a matte finish or flat finish.
Probably matte, probably not flat. I'm saying that off the cuff.
I don't think we would want a reflective surface with the light bleeding up onto the paint, which would increase. Now, I don't think that we would want to use a matte.
Yep, wouldn't want that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Seeing none or no hands raised. Now call for neighborhood association representatives. I don't believe there are any here, other than we received written testimony for this, or written comment. And Zach, I will also ask, are there any names for the sign-up sheet or anyone that has joined for public comment?
Oh, I just realized
you're muted, but
my microphone was out of my face. Yeah, so no one has signed up to provide public comment or neighborhood comment on this property or this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who has joined the meeting or is participating that would like to testify? Hearing none. Also have the opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant.
Generally, if there is no one.
If there's none, yes. And then back to the commissioners. Are there additional questions for staff? Anything from staff for the staff report? Okay. Would anyone who provided testimony like to request that the record remain open to submit additional evidence? Right, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. I will now call for a motion.
Hi, Carol, it's Andy. I move to approve the proposal with the following condition 1, but also include the sashes on those windows.
And the locations and the locations as recommended by Commissioner Holton.
So can we have clarity on your motion, Commissioner Zimmerman? So you move staff recommendation.
As well as the condition, but include in that condition that the windows will be kept within the sashes when they are preserved.
Okay.
Would you like to include the numbered packet window thing as well, or will the only reason I'm bringing this up is Juliana mentioned it, and if you don't include it in your motion, then we have to make a friendly amendment.
Yeah, are we able to dictate where they store the windows? I'm kind of lost on that one. Because I mean, I think we just request that they store them on site. At least that's what the city recommendation or the staff recommendation is. Are we able to tell them where they can store it on the property?
I think the additional wording would be to identify on the sashes where the windows were located in the store.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So
Gotcha.
they can be put back where they were.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me on that one.
So,
but, yes, if we could also identify where the windows originally were located and number them, or however appropriate is to kind of list where they were for future interested parties should they want to put them back in the original location.
Okay, and I'll we can discuss this as soon as we have a second. So so would someone like to second?
I'll second that motion.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioner Inman seconds the motion, which would be to approve the proposal with the condition suggested by staff, as well as indicating where they're stored and with the transoms and where they're stored. Is that what you have, Zach?
I have that, so it'll be.
Or can you read it to us, please?
Oh, I don't have a draft written yet.
Okay.
But it's to approve the proposal with the existing condition, but we're going to modify the existing condition to include the retention of the sashes and to indicate the current locations of the windows so that if they are to be restored, they can go back to where they currently are.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and now a commission can discuss. Commissioner Zimmerman, do you want to begin by speaking to your motion?
Sure. I appreciate the applicants for continuing to work on this over the past couple of months in terms of adjusting kind of the scope of what they were going to do on that property. I'm appreciative of the fact that they're going to be trying to use kind of thinner frames to kind of fit the building a little bit more. I think it's nice to see them kind of go that extra mile to kind of get a little more information to see, what their options were to do that. And I like the idea of the signs being illuminated, kind of hidden, as well as just painted on there. So it seems like that was kind of less of intrusive of putting like a big sign or something right into the building. So I appreciate the efforts that they're making to improve the property, but also doing so in a subtle way where it doesn't really take away from what the building looks like or the feel of the property.
Thank you. Others that would like to discuss the motion on the floor? I know that I appreciated hearing the different thoughts, the thoughts on how to consider the storage, and again, from our side, understanding the challenges with that, but I know that I appreciate hearing just in the discussion that it's already something that is being considered, and really thinking about how you're going to do it or what's going to make sense. And I guess I'd also remind everyone too, for those of you that had questions before, if there's any questions about what we've put into since we made some comments on the condition, if that's the condition we want, please, if there's anything missing from before that you said, now would be the time to discuss. If there are any additional comments on that.
I put something, sorry, this is Kimberly. I put something in the chat, which you can use or not.
Oh, thank you.
The
Thank
chat
you,
looks good.
I just have one comment. I appreciate the applicant considering salvaging those windows and storing them on site. That's a real help to those who want to go back and actually either replace those with the existing there, or if they just want to study them and take a look at them and maybe replicate them at a later date. So I do appreciate the applicant doing that. I think everything that was mentioned in the motion addressed what I had a concern about, and that is just putting the puzzle back together again at a later time. It's always good to have photographs and to have some sort of documentation on what was there before. So 50 years down the road, somebody looks at it and they have that with them. The other thing I wanted to mention was the uplighting on the signs. I think that's a great idea. Downtown Salem, of course, doesn't have a lot of buildings that are uplit. And I know when I worked on the Elsinore Theater, we did uplighting off of the marquee up onto the building. And not only does it light the signage, but it lights the building, and it makes an attractive area for downtown, creates a little bit of life after 9 o'clock. So again, I appreciate that thought of going into that. It's also easier to maintain those lights on that. You can use a flexible electric cord with a weighted base, and so you can move them around and do all that. So again, I just want to compliment the design on that and considering how it's going to look in the evening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, and again, I would say that I appreciate the input from all the commissioners this evening, as well as I appreciate the applicant working with the city on this. I know that with the various pieces, including the element that was in the original application that has changed, and all of the things that we've been through, that requires patience and flexibility. And we appreciate the ongoing work with the commission and work with the city to come up with a really good solution. So
If I might comment.
Yeah.
Can I comment? I would like to appreciate Kimberly and the rest of you for your patience with those of us who aren't used to working through this process. And it has been a pleasure to learn how this all works. Thank you.
Yes, very much so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to close our discussion with the commission, and I will call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, hearing none, motion passes. And I think Zach has the count, so appreciate again you joining us tonight. You're of course welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave as we move on to the rest of our business.
My wife says I'm late to a PTA meeting, so thank you.
Thank you very much
so
for your time.
Okay. Give me 1 second here to so moving through our agenda, we have a second hearing this evening, which I will now open. The public hearing for historic review case number HS 2101 MOD1 for 296 14th Street Northeast. Will the recorder please read the hearing procedures and statement into the record?
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 21-01 Mod 1 for property located at 296 14th Street Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 230.065, General Guidelines for Historic Contributing Resources. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the hearings officer on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioner would like to declare at this time?
I live in the Court Chemeketa National Register District, and Connie Strong is my neighbor, and but doesn't live on my street, but she lives just a few blocks away, and I'm very familiar with the house, walk by it almost on a daily basis, and I have been inside during the first part of construction that she was doing on the house. So that's, I guess that's my disclosure. I live close enough to the site that I received mailed notice about the hearing, and I think that I can be objective and review today.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm hearing that that was shared, but that you don't believe you need that will affect your judgment. So you can continue to join us. With that, we will may now have the staff presentation.
Hi, this is Kimberly again. I'd like to enter the staff report for HIS 2101 Mod 1 and its attachments and all testimony into the record. This property is located at 296 14th Street Northeast. It's a contributing resource in the Court Chemeketa National Register Historic District. A little bit about the history. This Queen Anne house was, it's known as the William Byrd House. It was built by George Collins in 1887, and it was originally at 197 Court. It was moved to the current location in 1906. The kitchen was added at that time, attached to the eastern end of the rear facade, which is where you were going to be discussing the proposal. And in 1927, a porch was added to the northern end of the kitchen. The resource, I believe it's still on special assessment through the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office with a long-term preservation plan for the property in place. So the owner, Connie, she's very patiently been working on this property for quite a long time. You can see, for those of you that weren't around in 2017, you can see the kind of condition it was in before she started doing the significant amount of work that she has been doing on this property. In 2017, the HLC approved HIS 17-16, which was, I believe, the very first time she came before HLC, and when she began her rehabilitation project of the 1887 portion of the resource. And she came back again in 2018, and the HLC approved a modification of that original approval, which authorized the addition of some fencing that you can see there at the lower, on the lower right of your screen. And at that time, Connie did originally include a portion of her current request relating to the kitchen and the porch, but due to significant challenges at that time, she chose to withdraw it. And in January, a year ago, the HLC approved HIS 2101, which is the plan you see before you. Some of you were on the commission at that time. And initially, the HLC approved the installation of a new driveway and a gate and a new foundation under the porch and kitchen. The original plan was to relocate an exterior wall within the existing footprint to create a covered porch and have the stairs there at the northern end of that eastern facade. You can kind of see the colored site plan here where the green shows the 1926 portion, and the 1906 portion, and then the pink shows the later 1927 porch addition. So what you're going to hear tonight, so while attempting to proceed with the construction of the porch and the stairs along that northern elevation as originally approved, the contractor determined there was not enough structural integrity on that northern end. There was no wall sheathing, no foundation, no shear walls, so no anchors. The only attachment point to the house for the shed addition was just a 2x4 at the roof line. So due to the complexity of the engineering and the significant cost that would have been required to bring this section of the house up to code to allow for the reconstruction of the porch in this section as originally approved, they had to pivot and look for a different solution. And so Connie can speak more to this when she speaks to you, but they made a decision to relocate the stairs and construct a new porch there at the center of the eastern facade. So tonight you're going to be reviewing the modified proposal for that porch, stairs, as well as the relocation of some windows. So I'll go through that a little bit more in detail. So kind of step by step. So there's no modifications requested to the HLC's original approval for improvements on the site. So that's not up for discussion today. The modifications proposed on the south elevation are limited to the window. So originally the HLC approved a larger multi-light 50 by 77 inch window. You can see the rendering there on the left part of your screen. She's now proposing to use an antique 35 inch by 49 inch leaded glass window instead of that larger window. Moving on to the east elevation, this is where the most changes are proposed. So you can see the new porch has actually already been constructed. It is 10 feet by 5 feet, so you can see it there, and the framing for that larger multi-light window is there on the south side of the porch. But the proposal is actually reducing the overall number of windows proposed for this elevation. There were originally, as you can see on the left side of your screen, 4 much larger windows and then 2 smaller double hung windows. She's just proposing 1 double hung window there on the northern side of the porch. And then moving on to the north side, And again, quite a change on the side here that's visible from the street. The applicant, Connie, is just proposing these two windows here. They are double hung 48 inches by 54 multi-paned. And they were originally approved for the south elevation. And so the originally approved scope, of course, you can see on the left side of your screen. I'm going to go through the applicable criteria here, which are in SRC 230065. So the original use as a residence will be maintained. That isn't changing. In terms of 230065B and C regarding treating historic features with sensitivity. The applicant is proposing to add the new porch and stairs to the rear of the resource. And while no distinctive stylistic features on the 1887 portion of the birdhouse are proposed for alteration, some original material will be lost from those later additions. However, they're located on the rear of the resource, limiting the adverse effect there. So staff would recommend that the HLC find that this guideline for B and C has been met. There's no part of the proposal where the applicant is proposing to restore any historic features, so that one doesn't apply. And then E, which is related to the features of the house that have acquired significance. So the 1906 and 1927 additions to the birdhouse, they are impacted by this proposal. But again, these alterations are located on the rear and not easily visible from the right-of-way, minimizing the adverse effect of these alterations. And also the applicant is proposing to reuse some of these original windows and the original siding as part of her proposal. And F and G relating to the compatibility of additions and the alterations. Again, in terms of the size and scale, the proposed porch addition is fairly small in scale, 10 feet by 5 feet. And at its location at the center of that rear facade, there'll be a minimal visual impact, especially to the oldest 1887 portion of the house. And so staff would recommend the Landmarks Commission find that guidelines 230065 F and G have been met. Regarding H, correction of structural deficiencies, I feel like that's the whole project here, is figuring out a way to work around the structural deficiencies of this portion of the house. So staff would recommend that this proposal meets that criterion. There was grading relating to the driveway minimal. There is none proposed for these portions before you this evening, so that does not apply. And public comment, we didn't receive any general public comment, although you did have some comments from neighbors that Connie submitted as part of her submittal. We did receive an email in support from the Neighborhood Association, NEN. And again, the Planning Division, Building and Safety, and Public Works did not indicate any concerns with the proposal. And as with before, the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office has been sent the proposal for their comment, but we have not received any comments back. So based upon the information presented in the application, plan submitted for review, and the findings presented this evening, staff recommends the Landmarks Commission approve the proposal. That concludes the staff.
Thank you, Kimberly. So at this point, it's our opportunity for commissioners to ask questions for staff. So do any commissioners have questions for the staff or on the staff report? Hearing none and seeing nothing on my Zoom. This is now opportunity for the applicant's testimony. So I'll now call for applicant's testimony. Please state your name and address for the record, and note that your testimony is limited to 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks. I'm Connie Strong, and you want my address again?
Yes, please.
296 14th Street Northeast. It's the corner of Chemeketa and 14th Street. And so as usual, Kimberly gave a wonderful, succinct summary of what we're doing and kind of where we are. The kitchen and utility room that I'm standing in right now, I'll kind of do a little rotating so you can see. So we knew that it was a shed addition, and we knew that they had drywalled over a transom window and one wall, and we discovered this beautiful shiplap behind the wall, and we also discovered a giant hole in the chimney that was drywalled over, and we found a lot of foundation problems. But the main reason that we had to change the plan is that this section, which unfortunately doesn't show to the public, but it is the original exterior of the house. This was the original back porch of the house. There's the original window frame is still there in place, and the original door frame is also still in place. And we would have had to remove this whole section in order to create the shear walls that are required to move an exterior wall. And since this sits on its own foundation, and it has all these, neat little details and clues to the history, I really, I didn't want to do that. So the only way to add stairs safely, they have to be covered and they have to be railed because the entrance is 5 feet off the ground. So without moving an exterior wall, we have to put an entrance on the outside. So that's why the porch is now on the outside. And then in the process, we also discovered that this whole thing it's a 3-sided structure, and it wasn't attached anywhere except at the roof line. So there was, once we took the drywall off, there was daylight coming in from both ends, and the whole thing kept moving around. And anyway, so it was just really, really fragile, and it made sense to do fewer windows and smaller windows instead of the big ones that we had proposed. Also, the only windows that the structure originally had were 2 small double hung windows in the kitchen, and the rest of the windows were actually just screens. They weren't glazed. So we got rid of all the screens, and we added antique windows like the big multi-pane ones that you saw. And then this big one, these are actually 2 double hung windows, but we just installed them as a fixed window. And I think once it's all painted and doesn't have paper over it, it'll look really nice. But that's the summary.
Thank you.
So that's where we are right now.
Thank you. It's sort of an unintended thing that we found with our being remote, is that we have applicants that can be in the situation when they testify. So thank you. At this point, commissioners, do any commissioners have questions that they would like to direct to the applicant? Seeing none and hearing none. Neighborhood association representatives, is there anyone representing the neighborhood association?
And we did not have anyone from the neighborhood or any members of the public signed up for testimony.
Thank you. And I also do not believe there's anyone else that's joined that would like to testify. All right, with that, commissioners, do any commissioners have additional questions for staff? Commissioner Kurtman?
Not really a question. I was just going to comment and say thank you very much, Connie, for giving the tour. That was exciting to see, and appreciate all the work you've been doing and avoidance that you've done and workarounds. I think everyone here can say that old houses are always a challenge to work around. And then once you wiggle one thing, everything else comes undone too. So I appreciate all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you. Seeing or hearing no questions for staff, would anyone who provided testimony like to request that the record remain open to submit additional evidence not yet presented? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. I will now entertain a motion.
Hi, Carol, this is Andy. I move to approve the proposal.
Second.
Second.
So Commissioner Zimmerman moves that we approve the proposal, and Commissioner Ponce seconded. Thank you. Commissioner Zimmerman, to your motion.
I just want to thank the applicant for all the hard work that she has done with that house. I wasn't on the commission for the first go round, but I was on it with the one that she came most recently to talk with us about. And hopefully there aren't any more surprises, and you can kind of finish up the house as you kind of have it in your plans and as you're working toward it. And there aren't any more of those surprises or 2x4s holding up any other sections. But from what I've seen, it looks like you've done a fabulous job, and it's wonderful when people care so much that they look at trying to make sure that everything is going to work out just right for those houses and ensure that they're going to last, for years and years and years, and other generations hopefully will be able to then enjoy the fruits of your labor and all the effort that you put into it, down the road. So I really appreciate the work that you've done, and hopefully, you'll be able to get this all done and just enjoy the house as you wish to see it.
I'd like to.
Connie, can you hang on for a second? Oh, hang on for a second, Connie. It's still for commissioners' discussion at this point. Are there other commissioners that would like to contribute to discussion?
I'd just like to follow up with Andy's comment. I really appreciate what you're doing here. I know it's a labor of love, but it also costs a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of patience. And I know all of us on the commission really appreciate the work that you're doing to try to save some of our history here in Salem. And again, my thanks to you. And, I hope that it's as enjoyable for you in this process has it been for us to take a look and see what you've been doing. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I will echo some of those sentiments. I think I've been on commission for both of those previous hearings. So again, I know all of the work it's been, and we often comment with the reviews we do with businesses downtown, and we know the challenges there are to investing in those buildings, but also to have the vibrant businesses and the uses of the buildings. I know that it's just as important in the residential neighborhoods, and all of this work is really, really important to you. So we appreciate that you're doing it, and it really just contributes and strengthens the neighborhood around you as well. So we appreciate your ongoing work and continuing to work with us and work with the city on your project.
Thanks for helping support it.
You're welcome. I will now call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve, say aye.
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 All those opposed? With that, the motion passes. Thank you. And thank you again, Connie. And I really do mean it is fun that although we're stuck in Zoom, it's fun that we get to like actually get the tour during your testimony. Really appreciate it. So with that, Connie, you're again, like everyone, welcome to stay or continue to listen to our meeting. You're also welcome to leave if you'd like. And that closes our hearings. We do have several more items tonight on our agenda. We have 2 action items and some discussion items. How does the commission feel? Do we need to take a short break, or are we good to keep pushing through?
Good to go.
No hand waving. All right, perfect. So with that, we will now move to our action items. The first action item is the Eco Earth Ball, the landmark designation request, which we received materials in our packet. I will now ask for the staff presentation.
Thank you. This is Kimberly again. So tonight you're here to take action on a request to designate the Eco Earth Ball as a local historic resource. The applicant, and we have Chris Darcy as well as staff for the Heather Dimke from the Salem Public Art Commission here tonight. They have requested that the Salem Historic Landmarks Commission initiate the local historic resource nomination for the Eco Earth Ball. And according to SRC 230010C2, any person may ask the Landmarks Commission to initiate the designation of a local historic resource. So I'm going to go through, we did this relatively recently in October, I think. So hopefully the process isn't super new to you, but I'll go step by step through the story of the Eco Earth Ball, the location, and then the criteria. So the Eco Earth Ball is located in Riverfront Park at 230 Front Street. A little bit about the history. I love that picture with the boat, especially. So on August 7th, 1960, the 10-ton, 26-foot diameter tank for acid storage was pushed by a tugboat on the Willamette River for installation as part of the Oregon Pulp and Paper Company. They had previously used wooden tanks, but these needed replacement since acid and wood don't play well together. The tank held acids used in cooking wood chips into pulp, and the Boise Cascade bought the Oregon Pulp and Paper Company and continued to use this until it closed in 1982. And at that time, the city of Salem asked that Boise Cascade leave the acid ball with the idea that it could become an amenity in the new Riverfront Park. So here's a couple of pictures, sort of the one in the upper left shows before it got all the wonderful tiles on the exterior. And the picture on the upper right is from a newspaper article. I wish it was in color, but that was from the dedication. So volunteers worked an estimated 30,000 hours over a 5-year period to convert the acid ball into a work of art. Members of the public contributed more than $70,000, and they could purchase either country flags or icons that were then put on the exterior of the ball. There was Eco Earth Board of Directors, which was chaired by former Salem Mayor Roger Gertenrich. And they set the unveiling to coincide with the annual World Beat Festival at the park. And it was dedicated on June 28th, 2003. And Governor Kulongoski actually signed a proclamation to set aside that date as Eco Earth Day in Oregon, which I think is pretty cool. So now I'm going to go through the applicable criteria, which are in SRC 230010. So in order to qualify for designation, it needs to meet the criteria for age, significance, and integrity. So first, age, the resource is approximately 60 years of age. So staff recommends that HLC find that this criterion has been met because it needs to be at least 50 years old. And regarding significance, so staff recommends that HLC find that this resource actually has significance in 2 of the 3 categories under both cultural significance and human significance. So it is significant for its association with both the Oregon Pulp and Paper Company and Boise Cascade as an example of a low pressure accumulator. And it has human significance because of its association with the Salem community and their efforts to adaptively reuse this industrial structure, converting it to a piece of art. The last one relating to integrity, the Eco Earth Ball retains its original form and is in its original location, while the exterior surface has changed due to the addition of these artistic tiles. This alteration does not impact that form or the structure itself, and it's still able to convey the association to both that original industrial use as well as to the significant community efforts converting the acid ball into a piece of art. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that the resource meets all the applicable criteria for designation. We do want to mention owner consent. The property and the Eco Earth Ball is owned by the City of Salem, and the Salem City Council would need to formally consent to the designation, which they have not yet formally done. So without getting too into the weeds about the type 4 legislative process here, even if the HLC agrees to initiate the designation, the final determination for both consent and designation itself will fall to the City Council. So the HLC has 2 choices, no action. So you don't have to make a decision tonight if you wanted more information, or you can choose to initiate if you find the applicant has made the case for potential listing as a local resource. And then direct staff to then work with the applicant to prepare that type 4 application for local landmark designation. So that concludes the staff report. I'm going to stop sharing. And again, I believe both Heather and Chris are here this evening.
Thank you. And I'll remind everyone we have new commissioners, and even if you're not, I know I always appreciate that this is not a public hearing, so we don't follow the exact same rules on when everything happens, but we have a very similar approach. So with that, we begin with if there's any questions for staff from the commission. Commissioner Kerdeman.
Hey, Kimberly, I wonder if you can just very high level general review of the benefits of having pieces listed on the register, and maybe to balance it like limitations or something.
Sure. The biggest benefit is access to funding, and I think maybe Chris can speak to that, or Heather as well. But yeah, that is the biggest benefit. But also, I think it's a great opportunity for the Landmarks Commission to collaborate with the Salem Public Art Commission because, as you know, because you've memorized our historic preservation plan, we have a big commitment to public education. So I think it's a great story. 2003. I don't know why, it feels like a long time ago now. Not a lot of people know the great story, so it's an opportunity for us to work together to share that story as well. And then the regulations, restrictions, again, it would be should at any time the Public Art Commission need to alter the exterior, then we would just need to work together with them to ensure that it meets our criteria as well as theirs. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions? And also I would say to Chris or Heather, if there's anything you'd like to share or present. Please, Chris.
Hi, Chris Darcy. I'm the current chair of the Salem Public Art Commission, 1628 Fairmount Avenue South. I live in Ward 7. We as a commission have been monitoring the decline in the condition of the Echo Earth Globe for several years. We commissioned a conservation report from ARG in Portland that was conducted in 2021 and put together both a conservation plan and a budget, which we now have the partnership of the Salem Parks Foundation to fund. And they have stepped forward with the opportunity for them to help raise $300,000 of about the $400,000 that it would need to bring the Echo Earth Globe back to sustainable condition. We know, and I was a government funder for many, many years. We know that there are funders who are interested in supporting historic preservation projects. Some of those funders prefer to support projects that involve structures that have historic landmark or resource designation. And we want to make sure that we are opening all doors for the Echo Earth Globe restoration to move forward. We are, we see, or I view the Echo Earth Globe as quite similar to local non-building landmarks like the Paul Bunyan sculpture in North Portland and Kenton, the Peterson Rock Garden in Central Oregon. And as the Riverfront Park development has proceeded, the Echo Earth Globe has become an iconic landmark. So now with the development of the Rotary Amphitheater, with the Peter Courtney Bridge, with the use of the park by so many different people, and with the development that is going to occur, the new development that is now underway on the Boise Cascade site, we see that there will be more traffic, more use by visitors, more use by residents, on bicycles, with strollers, with kids. And we think that this really has become an iconic part of downtown Salem.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any other questions for staff or guests?
I've got one, Carol.
Okay.
I was kind of curious, how long would the Eco-Earth, I guess is either for Chris or Heather, how long would the Eco-Earth, I guess, kind of survive if it isn't restored? I mean, it sounds like there's been some issues for a number of years with it. If work isn't kind of put forth in the next few years, what are we looking at with the Eco-Earth?
This is Heather Dimke, staff of City of Salem. I staff the Public Art Commission. So we've noted for several years now that the Eco-Earth has been in disrepair, and actually to the point where tiles are falling from the piece. We've been luckily able to collect most of the artistic tiles that were done by local students and artists, and we've saved those. And I think much of those can be pieced back together and reapplied. But what we're seeing is there's many points at this point of water infiltration that's getting in and behind. And so we're just going to continue at this point to see the tiles fall and break. Unfortunately, some of them will break. We're just hoping to finally, it's going to take probably at least a year, likely more than a couple years to achieve our funding goal for the restoration. So we're just looking forward to kind of stopping that disrepair and finally bringing it back to its former beauty and moving forward with a plan to keep it in better condition moving forward for continued maintenance.
Thank you.
Commissioner Holton, did you have a question?
No, I'm going to wait until the comment section, and then I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts on this.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we'll have, and I see you, Commissioner Kerman. So yeah, we will have a motion, and then we can discuss amongst ourselves too after that happens. Commissioner Kerman, did you have another follow-up question?
Yeah. And forgive me, I'm still learning about the history of the globe, but so it was originally storage for acid. Do we know that if there was some sort of a structural fault with the piece over time, is there a hazmat risk of contaminants inside the ball leaching out, or can we speak to that at all, or we don't know?
I can speak to the fact that there is asbestos, there's known asbestos well below the tile that has been encapsulated beneath another layer. That was found several years ago when we did our first, the Art Commission brought a contractor on board several years back to do an initial kind of rough estimate of what was going on with the piece. What we found through the most recent reassessment done by ARG is that most of the tile, although it continues to fall and continues to be in disrepair, is actually more sound than what we were thinking. And so we can go back and we can replace tiles, replace the grouting, but we do not need to disturb the levels that are encapsulating the asbestos, luckily. So that's not seen to be an issue, thankfully, at this time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zimmerman. You're muted. You have your hand up, but you are muted. It's okay.
I've got one more question. So with the damage that's occurred since it was constructed in 2003 when they first were putting the tiles on, is there a process that's going to be different, or has the city kind of learned maybe how to preserve it a little bit better going forward to ensure that once it's rehabilitated, that those tiles and things will stay on there for a longer period of time without needing additional attention, like within 10 or 15 years after it's refinished?
Yeah, I can speak to that again, Chris. Feel free to jump in at any point. But yeah, I think what we're seeing at this point is a need for continued maintenance down the road. But we're going to stay on top of it this time is the hope moving forward. We have not done anything to the Eco Earth Globe since it was installed. And what we've seen is not only the water has gotten into the grout in areas of fault with the grout, there's some biogrowth on the structure itself. So to go back in to re-grout, reseal, keep up on the cleaning so that we don't see that growth. That's been the recommendation moving forward from ARG, and they did state that we're going to have to stay on top of it. This is likely something that we will indeed need to replace grout over so many years. It's not something that we can just fix and walk away as we've done for the past several years.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will now, I guess, reminding that at the end of the staff report, there was some of our options, but I will now call for a motion.
Hi, Carol. I move to initiate the type 4 process for historic designation of the eco-earth globe.
We have a second.
And it,
All right, Commissioner Zimmerman moves to start the process with Commissioner Holton seconding. And now we can discuss. Andy, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. Like it's been mentioned earlier, it is kind of an iconic piece to Riverfront Park. You know, it was there early on as these other pieces have been developed on that property. And it was such a big community effort. I remember I worked at the newspaper back then, and you know, it was a big effort, you know, in terms of the publicity, and then you saw the support from the public to, you know, put this project forth and make it such a neat aspect of that park. And I remember when going to the park those first early years after it was completed, and you always saw kids, you always saw people looking around there trying to figure out, you know, what was where and you know, what icon might be for a country where they were from. So it was just such a strong kind of a community piece in downtown. So I think it's certainly important that the Eco Earth Ball continues to move forward for future generations and other folks that are either from Salem or visit Salem so they can appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Holton.
I date myself here, but I moved to Oregon in 1960. I was 7 years old, so you can do the math. I remember coming into Salem, and of course, when the first thing you came into Salem, you saw the mill, and it was an active mill. Riverfront Park was industrial. Judson's Plumbing was down there. We had steel manufacturers. We had everything was down there. And when the acid ball came in for a young person, that was really a neat thing to see because there was no structures like that around. And so I remember that. I started working in downtown Salem in 1970. And at that time, the mill was just kind of transitioning into just paper storage and paper manufacturing. So, you know, to see the mill, to see the Willamette River was full of logs. You could walk from one side of the river to the other on top of logs. So it had a big impact on the city. It was one of the largest employers in the city of Salem. And so the last thing that we have that recognizes that important, you know, industry at that time is this Eco Earth Ball. The parking structure now underneath the apartments has been modified so much, but in this pure form, this is a very important structure, I believe. The other thing is very similar to the Gasworks Park in Seattle. Seattle had that designated as a historic designation. There was only parts of the gaswork that they were able to salvage, but those parts are extremely important, especially to young generations that are going there. I recently visited it with my grandchildren. And so even if it's a piece, a small piece, it represents something that I think is very, very important for the city of Salem. The other thing I think was really important with that is to convert that structure, which was a very hazardous material storage structure, into a work of art. And so it had the benefit of two things, of industry and also of celebrating the structure as an art piece. So I really recommend, because, you know, again, this is a part of me, this designation, and I hope the city of Salem looks at this as really an important part of our history. And we do have to recognize that our history is based also on our industry at the time. So again, with that, I really offer my support to this.
Thank you. Are there other commissioners to contribute to discussion? I'll say that David explained you had a much better story from your own personal experience, but you really hit on one of the things that I wanted to call out, which is I think it's really important. It is just this one sort of piece, but it's such a critical sort of a physical tie-in to that industrial history at that site, which is not what a contemporary user of the park, the first thing they're going to think of. In a lot of good ways, it's a real asset. The park is a real asset to the city, especially with the new developments that have happened with the amphitheater, as well as the bridge, and really the ADA, the ramp kind of curls around that. The design of the bridge really brings it into the park and makes it sort of one of the centerpieces that's been there. And then also just, I think it's valuable even initiating this process and having these discussions here. But by having that resource, it's also the thing where it's that one piece that makes people not even realize it. Then they start sort of asking questions and digging into everything. So yeah, I think it's really, really great and nice to have something like that harkens back to all the changes that park has been through. Unless there's anything else for discussion, I will call for a vote for on the motion to recommend that I don't have it in front of me. Recommend to move forward with the
Initiation.
Yeah, and to initiate the historic landmark designation for the Echo Earth Ball. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, so the motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
I'll follow up, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Our next action item is work plan. Work plan for 2022 and annual report for 2021. So I'll turn to Kimberly.
All right, so I'm going to just be as brief as I can. You all got a draft of the beautiful, thank you, Zach, annual report and work plan. So again, I can't believe I'm saying this again, despite the continued challenges with COVID and virtual and all of that, we still did a lot of work. We kept up our Toolbox Grant program. We awarded $11,000 in Toolbox Grants. We completed 28 historic design reviews. Now, I know you probably noticed that because of our code changes, 23 of those design reviews were done by staff, and the rest, if you can math, 5 of them came to you. We also completed 19 archaeology reviews, and we held our annual photo contest, which we're not calling This Place Matters anymore. And we also had that nice feature, if you can see all the pictures of Tracy smiling, of handing out the awards to the award winners on site, which I thought was a really nice thing to do. And here's just some pictures pulled from the work plan. These are some of the projects that we acknowledged, if you recall. The new building at 260 State Street, the amphitheater, the Salem and Cultural Heritage Forum. And then we had a new award, the Cultural Landscape Award. And if you recall, also Carol gave a great talk during our acknowledgement of Landscape Architecture Month. And then we had a new neighborhood asked to be a heritage neighborhood, so the Highland neighborhood, if you remember that. And we're going to be talking about working with them when we talk about segue our 2022 work plan. So this is the work plan for 2022. It includes 19 actions within these 6 goals, which is actually the same number as we had last year because we did complete some work. I didn't mention it because I have a whole report on it, but we and Juliana and Steve were part of our subcommittee for the enforcement project. But the biggest new actions are going to be working with our new heritage neighborhood, and as well as looking to increase our financial support for homeowners, specifically looking for new sources of funding through our Toolbox Grant. So what I would, so the starred ones, oh, and I didn't pull my little stars off it. Anyway, are the ones that are new this year. And here, I've done this fun thing where I'm looking for, we're looking for volunteers. So, and Zach, you can help me remember. I think Patty and Brett agreed, volunteered already. So Patty agreed to still work on the awards committee. And Brett has agreed to work with you, Andy, on developing some content for social media, especially around historic properties. And then I'll turn it over to you, Carol, so you can facilitate maybe volunteering or voluntolding, whatever you want to do.
And if it works for everyone, could you leave this on the screen?
Yes, I can. You'll be very
Thank
tiny
you.
to each other, but yes, I will leave it.
So for commissioners, new or veteran, so this is the other big piece of the work that we do is sort of help keep all of these things moving. And we certainly have some gaps to fill in, as well as you can be on more than one area. And then as well, I'm sure Kimberly can help and Zach better than I, but it's not that all of these items take ongoing work every month or every week, but there's different times where we will need either your enthusiasm or your expertise to help keep things moving. So what were the two, Kimberly, you said, or Zach?
Yeah,
that-
so Patty
and Brett.
Yeah, Patty agreed to help to be on that award committee. I think it was you and Patty last year.
Oh, that's right.
Which is the Historic Preservation Month, but also the photos. And then Brett agreed to be on, you can see under goal 6, spotlighting key resources.
Survey.
Yeah, and because we're going to be working with Highland to survey. So, but then he would do the content and provide that to Andy. And that's assuming Andy would still want to do. I did put a question mark, Andy, although Andy will keep doing it.
I'll just open up the floor, first of all, for anyone who, the things on there that you would like to volunteer for.
David here. I talked to Kimberly a little bit about goal number 3, about financial support for the Toolbox program and that. So I don't know how that applies here.
I think that's wonderful. Yeah, I didn't even pick anybody's.
You got me over on the technical. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
But also goal 3, maybe looking at some options and maybe just giving a little bit of background for the other commissioners on ideas or issues that you face when you're dealing with some financial incentives. So you see that one there you go.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but So that.
No, it's great.
It works.
Thank you, David. Yeah, that's a,
I love it. Yeah. I
first
don't
of all,
know.
yeah, it's good to have it over there. And then that's an ongoing, again, sort of supporting all the different things we as a commission do, or just that the programs under Kimberly do. It's kind of, we have the enforcement and the reviews, but any ways that we can do those supports for all the homeowners that do all the things to make their neighborhoods nice and keep their houses intact and work with us. It's always good to have supports. So I'm sure there's opportunity to discuss that and ways to expand it, or also find out if, if there's certain ways to maybe expand who uses it or knows about it. Might be a piece of it too. Juliana, are there any of these that appeal to you? And you're muted.
We've already made some strides on goal 2.
Mhm.
And as a part of that, we're talking about doing an active baseline of our historic areas and using volunteers and photographing and doing a database of existing conditions, so we will have a baseline for future reviews. That effort might also be useful over here on goal 6.
Mhm.
And we might be able to kind of double up if we use the technology that staff has developed for inputting this data. So, I would say I'm interested in goal 6 and continuing on goal 2. And we've also talked in general terms about funding and the Toolbox Grants, and would like to talk further about an idea for an event that we could use to showcase historic parts of town and pull in sponsors and have live performances and raise additional funds for the Toolbox Grants. I think that is one of the Toolbox Grants are one of the carrots that we can use for getting other neighborhoods to come into the fold and become historic landmark neighborhoods, because you can apply for grants. So those are the areas that I'm interested.
Perfect, thank you. I would be willing to, since you're moving names around, the goal 5 is pretty interesting to me. I'd be happy to be involved with that, maybe with a dotted line to number 3, just because although it's not the Toolbox program, the action, which is in teeny print there, but the action is about the action is, I think, is really tied to the same incentive model. So what are the grants or the funding streams? So I would be happy to be listed next to goal 5, but I would probably look to maybe partner with my friends on goal 3 because of some of the crossover maybe in what we do.
I'll just put you there too.
Okay, but I'm gonna beg.
You're like, stop it.
but I may ask to unvolunteer from goal number 1.
Okay.
But ask for somebody to be involved, especially I think it's at the top. But the things that are coming up with Historic Preservation Month, the photo contest and those items. If we could have somebody who can help with that, I think especially on just the outreach and sort of marketing of it, for lack of a better term.
Carol, do you still want to be on 2? I mean, goal 4.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on goal 4.
Thank you.
And 5.
4, 5, and sort of kind of 3.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for me. But I would say if somebody could help with for the work plan, and honestly, I'm specifically thinking of the actions, right there at the top, the Preservation Month, which is the awards and photo contest. So there's the outreach component, and then the other, which we need to start pretty soon. And then the other component of that is that once the photos come in, the folks that are on that sort of committee will be the ones that look through everything and do the original judging and recommendations for the board, or the commission, excuse me, if that's how I proceed, as well as the support for working on the awards that we give out. So working with staff on choosing those. If that appeals to anyone.
I wouldn't mind helping out with that.
Yay.
Oh, put in your name.
Copy and paste.
I know, right?
Fast before
Sorry, everyone.
No, it's good. It's I'd rather get it written down tonight.
You can remove the question mark off of goal 4.
Because archaeology, you're the only one.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, that one's an obvious one.
Just trying to make sure everyone gets a chance to chime in. You certainly don't have to change anything you're signed up for, but Steve, how do you feel about your?
I was trying to tie
goals?
Goal 1 and 2, because I think that the historic code and the criterion process enforcement, a big part of that is outreach, and just making homeowners or the realtors and awareness, but it doesn't really tie together with the photo contest and what have you. But if one of these other strategies there, I'm trying to read it.
Well,
it's still too small.
But there's a
Actually, the
technical
homeowner forum.
Yeah, and there's the technical training, I think, in there too.
There's so Steve, can I ask, do you still want to be part of the implementation of, because that's, I mean, if you want to help with the flyer, which is about educating homeowners, but that does, it does tie to goal 1. I can see.
Okay, but I did not notice I was looking past the question mark, so please.
So I can take the question mark off.
Yes.
Do you want me to add you to, I don't know.
Sure, I could.
What strategy? I could just do, well, I'm here with Andy. Andy, I'll put, how about like strategy 2, Steve? Just educational programming kind of thing.
That's very.
We can follow up on that.
Yeah, that's good.
How about our missing commissioners?
Yeah,
I was gonna say the ones that aren't here.
Yeah.
You can copy paste Tracy's name maybe a few times.
Could we?
Oh,
Yeah, a
That's a good
Snyder's
idea.
tab.
3 Tracy ones up there.
We've got, yeah, I feel like I put HLC volunteer next to our heritage neighborhood because we'll need someone to, so we could continue this discussion until next time when more people are here. This is a good start. I think, you know, to the action items. So I guess if you guys are okay with it, the action tonight is just to accept the annual report and the work plan itself, but you guys can continue to discuss who's going to do what next time. But like Carol said, there's some stuff that we need to kind of hit the ground running on, like the photo contest and stuff.
Yeah. And again, the photo contest, and if there's any other things for April.
Yes.
Which I don't know what April looks like in 2022, but
well, you're giving a talk, right, at the amphitheater?
a presentation.
Yeah, and isn't April the day of the volunteer day for taking
Global
photographs?
Day of Service.
Day of service.
Yeah.
And then we also have a new public archaeology project, Jessica, which I have to talk to you about, Jessica.
Well, and we used to, and I was thinking, we used to also, there would be a, what was the event downtown or on the mall? You'd have a tent.
In April?
That was called.
Oh,
Mhm.
Yeah, I
At the
remember that
Capitol?
one. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
Capitol, and they
It's
had
been
the
canceled
spinning
since
wheel,
COVID.
and we did all that stuff. A couple
Oh
years ago.
yeah. Oh, I forget. That's good that you brought that up because Shippo has asked that we take that over.
Oh,
Did you hold your head? Yeah, that's what yeah.
well, Tracy, put Tracy on that one. Well, I think this is good for this evening for getting all these things initiated. And again,
Great.
The actual work that's needed will be ebb and flow, and we'll address it. And we also
Well, yeah, I'll work with Zach to make this much prettier
yeah.
than it is. But tonight, so that's what the recommendation is. If you're okay, I'm going to stop sharing it. So
Thank you.
So
for this action item, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the work plan and what was the other thing they had on there? Focus on work plan.
accept the annual report.
Accept the annual
There you go.
report.
And forward to city council. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
Right. Commissioner Zimmerman motions and Commissioner Inman seconded. To accept the plan and move to council. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
I will mention that Carol or Andy, whichever you guys get to fight with each other, need to go to city council to speak to the work plan and annual report, which we'll follow up with you on that. It should be in February.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
All right. Well, we had quite the agenda and we've done a good job working through it, but we're not done.
One more thing.
But we're kind of in the home stretch. So discussion items. The first one is historic enforcement, updated goals and priorities.
All right, so this will be very familiar to Juliana and Steve because they were on this committee. Thank you. So last year, I think it was last year in April was the last time the HLC saw this. It was part of our 2021 work plan. And at that time, we established a compliance advisory subcommittee. This was to update our existing historic enforcement policy, which is out of date. It was originally established in 2011. This committee met 4 times through December of last year, and it included staff, HLC, Steve, and neighborhood representatives, including Juliana and other interested stakeholders. So you may recognize a few names here. So Jennifer, former HLC member, was the chair, and Juliana was served as the vice chair. And this is the process that the group followed. We first were identifying some of the issues and challenges with our existing policy. We did several surveys, and then the group, we developed recommended updated policies, which I'll provide an overview of. So first I want to share with you what our current policies are, so you know what those look like. We didn't have very many. I won't read them all here, but this is what they are. They're very reactive, is how I'll put it, complaint driven. And even though we did have as a strategy the monitoring of structures, this was not feasible for historic preservation staff to accomplish alone. So now I'm going to talk through the recommended goals and priorities, and then I'll discuss some more specific implementation strategies, which I think Juliana touched on a little bit earlier. And also Steve, yeah. So here, education of property owners and financial incentives is really important. So the first priority is for us to develop a flyer, essentially summarizing very succinctly what the benefits and responsibilities are. We do annually an insert, which just went out, right, Zach, in the newsletter, as it's a requirement of the CLG to maintain our CLG status, but we're wanting to make something that's digital and also wanting to be more engaging. And then priority 2, we want to make sure to engage not just homeowners, but also real estate agents, future owners, and also develop a welcome packet. These are some of the implementation strategies. So Kendra Mingo, who's one of our members on the committee, she has experience creating training videos. So hoping to create a training video to complement the flyer, and then add that flyer to our buyer disclosure letter, which we currently have. And then these are some specifics about developing the welcome packet. So these are things I think that Steve can do this. Second goal is about proactive monitoring, which is I think what Juliana touched on. And that's the first priority is to develop a GIS database with baseline photos of our existing resources in each neighborhood. And that's what we were talking about a little bit ago about the global day of service. And then we can update that annually. And then wanting to coordinate with neighborhood associations, as well as just those that have designated districts, but also heritage neighborhoods, just to identify at-risk properties. And then work more closely with NED, our enforcement division, to make sure that we are streamlining how we're handling our complaints and that sort of thing. I won't read through all this, but again, this is more implementation strategies. So we're wanting to kind of streamline our public outreach and also make sure that the website is easy. I don't know, it's not just us. There's a larger project to improve the city's website, but making sure it's easy for folks to know where to go to file a complaint. And then again, working with our IT to develop that ArcMap collector. So it's really cool. We did this project for our last heritage neighborhood. We used our phones, and so you can volunteers like through the Global Day of Service or whomever else is interested can actually take pictures just with their phone and be able to upload them directly to our GIS, which is pretty cool. And then the last goal is really developing consequences and also really sharing what those consequences are. So it ties back to the very first goal in terms of education. So combining that carrot and the stick here. So, and these are the priorities that we identified. One of the key ones that might matter to you guys is that this cycle, this upcoming cycle of Toolbox Grants, if someone has consciously violated our code, then they would be denied eligibility to our Toolbox Grant. And these are some of the implementation measures for that. So none of this, I'm gonna stop sharing. This is an information report to you. You of course are free to fill in what I may have left out, Juliana and Steve, if there's anything I've missed. And then also if you have any questions, concerns, generally, Carol and Andy and Jessica, David, please let us know.
I just will add a few things that it was surprising, the enforcement and I guess consequences, kind of a tough area, because I realized that the city is very limited in what their enforcement capabilities are and the range of the ask. And so I think that that coupled with the consequences, is a struggle, because you want to have an incentive to have compliance, but not create a situation that is a burden, unnecessary burden, corrective, consequence, not so much penalty, but it's a fine line. And so I think we have some still work to do to figure out just the capacity if the city grows and what the commission can support.
Thank you. Very well put. Yeah, I appreciate it's an important piece, and it's really complicated. So it's great to see that the city of Salem's continuing to work through this issue. It's an issue in cities across the country. So are there other questions or anything else anyone want to add to the discussion?
I'll just add that I think we'll be bringing back information reports as things progress this year. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a great example of how this is working with our database and show you kind of what we've been doing proactively on this. So more to come.
Excellent. Thank you. Our next discussion item is work plan assignment updates and check-in, which of course we just workshopped a few minutes ago, and the action item. So I don't think we need to go around with everyone having updates, but does anybody have anything from work plan they want to bring up? The only thing I'll bring up is the work plan item that I unvolunteered from. But I would suggest that, I know April's kind of far away, but for the photo contest, maybe whoever's going to be involved with that, if maybe Zach, you could help get people coordinated just so that they know, because there's some little things like the categories and the name, whatever the name of the contest will be, that those are the things that have to be in place before we can start asking people to submit. So speaking from experience, we should initiate pretty soon just on those kind of basic things, and then I'm sure it'll be good to go.
And just for anyone who's interested maybe in doing that, my plan is to kind of take what existed for last year and then update it for this year, send it out to you so that you don't have to come up with anything from scratch. It's just looking at what already exists and kind of refining that. So that's the goal for this year.
Yeah. And also, since we've had all the changes, new commissioners, new year, all of that. Also remind people that, so we will need to work outside of this meeting sometimes on these items, but there are the public meetings rules and all of those things, which are okay. We can do that. We just have to make sure the easiest thing to do is always to just, if you're emailing each other, just put Kimberly and Zach on it. I think that's a good place. And then usually if we are having any meetings, again, like if the photo contest as an example, if there's a reason that we're going to get together, discuss, that will usually be something that'll be that Zach or Kimberly can help organize getting together. So it shouldn't be an issue, but something to keep in the back of your mind. Speaking of assignments, what about newsletter assignments?
Yes, so it's everyone's favorite time. So the just as a brief update, the winter newsletter was a little bit late and it got out today, but it is out both in the print and digital edition. I had some issues with some of the photos not working correctly, but we got it all sorted out. So moving on to the next one, which will be theoretically in March is when I'd like to publish that. Just as a brief overview for everyone, they should be published the week of either the solstice or equinox for whatever season they're a part of. So the week of March 20th, June 20th, September 20th, December 20th should be the week that they get published, but sometimes it's a little bit off. But last time we talked about having a theme for each edition and setting those ahead of time. So last time we agreed that the spring edition would be events. So we're looking at like one-time events or things that happened in Salem. So I wrote down a couple of suggestions that I got both from Kirsten and just like things that we talked about before. So it could be like the Columbus Day storm was a giant storm for Salem. The reburial of either Jason Lee or Samuel Thurston, talking about the Tin Man that encouraged people to donate scrap metal during the World War. The parade of animals that happened. The arrival of the Braceros for the Bracero program, things like that were kind of like a distinct event in Salem history. And if anyone has anything that they are already thinking about writing, we are looking to get probably at least 3 commissioners to write something, plus the chair to write a letter at the beginning. So Carol, you're already signed up for a letter from the chair. And anyone else who has an interest, it doesn't have to be one of the things I listed. Those are just some examples if you wanted some examples. But anyone have any ideas for something they'd like to write for the spring newsletter in March?
I could write something, Zach. There's plenty of kind of fun happened in Salem, or Salem was one of many kind of event places, you know, so I'm sure I can come up with something.
Okay.
And would this be a good newsletter for Patty and I and whoever else to advertise for the photo contest, or is that a bit early?
Yeah, we could definitely put in an advertisement for that.
Okay.
And Jessica, once you and Patty get something put together in terms of a plan or a name or whatever for the photo contest, let me know, and I could, you know, put it out there on our Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff early. So hopefully we can kind of drum up support. And Kimberly, I know you write that column for the Salem Reporter. Maybe we could have like a little blurb in one of your future columns about, hey, we've got this photo contest coming up, you know.
Totally, yeah.
Something like that, so we can kind of extend our reach ahead of time. Because I think last year we had some categories where we were a little bit thin on photos, and maybe we could kind of get some momentum, especially like with the youth ones now that, you know, kids are in school, and maybe get some interest from maybe some of the high schools, or if they have any kind of photo clubs or photography classes or something like that, just so we can kind of, you know, get a larger pool to choose from.
Sure.
Zach, we should talk to Lori too. She's the youth service. Yeah. Great.
Anyone else interested in volunteering for the newsletter?
Are we volunteering, Tracy?
Sorry, you might have already said it when you were listing everything before. Were there any that we already have? Did anybody volunteer in the past that's been bumped forward or anything?
I don't believe so, no. We do have plans for like some follow-up. So later on, I think in our next winter or fall edition, I forget which, Steve is gonna follow up on the current state of the project at the state building, but nothing currently set up for this one. I did also talk about the execution that happened outside of the Boone's Treasury last time, but that's we don't need to write about it, but that also building that has Hoover carved his name into one of the bricks on the side, and you can see it on the exterior if you go up the stairs on the exterior of that building.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, the cover, right? The letter from me will probably be something that ties together whatever the content is. So I'm happy to do that and adapt that.
We can follow up with Brett and Tracy.
Yeah, I feel like Brett had a few things he has on his back burner. Maybe we can.
Yeah, I assume Brett will want to sign up for something, but I'll ask next week. But that should be it for the newsletter. I will, let me pull up just a reminder for, the summer one is going to be, we will take photos from the photo contest and then ask you to write about the subject of the photos. So just as a heads up, if anyone wants to volunteer for that, it'll be easier because you just pick a photo and say, I want to write about that. So that'll be the summer theme for way off in the future. We also do have in the newest edition of the newsletter, at the bottom, it says what the next newsletter is about. And if we want to have any guest contributors to contact us, because we do have a way for guest contributors now. So we might get someone who's interested in doing that, but no guarantees, obviously.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach, and I'm sure we'll get some content. All right. With that brings us to the Historic Preservation Officer report. Kimberly.
So this can be very short. So Zach, I think, sent you guys a couple of items. So I just want to call to your attention the virtual Willamette Valley Planners Network meeting one. We, the city, will be happy to pay for your registration. It's a planning commissioner training, but it would apply to you guys as, so the Landmarks Commission and the Planning Commission are the two that hold quasi-judicial hearings. So I think it looks like it is going to be a good training. So please just let us know if this is something that you want to do, and we will get you signed up. And then the only other thing I think Zach forwarded to you is that there's an article in the winter edition of OHQ, and we're doing a presentation. Me and Chelsea Rose and Jennifer Fang and Don Han about the Chinese in Oregon. So I'm going to be speaking about the Salem Chinese community and that project that we did a couple of years ago to uncover the Chinese shrine. So it's pretty exciting. That's
Is
February.
that for
3rd.
the? Oh, okay. Are you doing a
Also
talk
doing
at the
NWAC.
NWAC?
Yeah, also doing a thing at NWAC with her, but this one is not at NWAC. It's just a special panel focusing on that OHQ edition. It's free, so if you want to come watch it, you're welcome. That's all I have.
Thank you. Just because you mentioned that training, I'll say a reminder because I'm somebody who has always done it, but forget and get a lot of reminder emails. All commissioners, you should have received or you will receive a notification from OGEC, government ethics. That is something that you do need to do. And it's also, I think if you do it the first time, it takes the longest. And then after that, you kind of reaffirm most things. But since what Kimberly said about that training, since we do the quasi-judicial, but also that we do make land use decisions, we need to file those. If you take the training, you might even hear about all of the bad things that happened to people when they didn't follow all the rules, but it's pretty simple, but I know it needs to be done.
That's a good reminder, Carol. We have had in the past several commissioners who did not do that, and you will get fined. So don't do that. Don't not do it.
But I speak from experience. They will send you lots of reminder emails all the way up to whatever the final date is. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
I have two
Are there
more
any
things.
other items?
Sorry.
Yes. It's okay.
Just two quick things that were also in the email, but just a reminder, the State of the City address is going to be on February 9th. If you'd like to go, I sent you, or if you'd like to, I think it's digital. I sent you the registration link, as well as we've been asked, the commissions have been asked for input on a bond measure that's being considered for infrastructure improvements. So those were both in the packet email, but I just wanted to call attention to those as well, in case you didn't. It was a very, very long email, so just calling attention to those. But that's the only additional things I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach. Any other items, discussion items not on the agenda?
Just good job, everyone. Our new commissioners and Carol and Andy, everyone did a nice job.
Yeah, I think you guys, as new commissioners, it's one of the busiest meetings we've had. I mean,
I know, yeah, we had 2 hearings. Anyway, I will now call the meeting